Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to the Mary D Talk Show. So nice to have you guys back again. I cannot believe it seems like it was just yesterday, and it's been a whole week. We back again. I'm really excited about this show. But before we get started, I do want to thank you, live viewers. Hi, live viewers. Thank you, replay viewers. Hi, replay viewers. You have no idea what it means when I mean, not at the end of the show, but like a day or so later after the show broadcast, I'll go back and I see all these viewers. And though you guys don't see that part of me, I pray over all of you. I'm always blessing all of you. So thank you for coming to the show. Thank you for supporting it, being here. It means a lot. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank you to our executive producer, Oliver Welch. Hi, babe. Remember, you guys, you'll get to see him. This is the month. So, the last show of December, Oliver comes on right near Christmas, I think it is. He comes on. And you will see, in fact, I may bring him on as like one of the guests. You guys could really talk to him, and those of you that have comments and everything. We were at an event yesterday, and a man came over to me and he goes, "Are you Mary D. Welch?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to meet you." And it was such a good experience, but at the same time, it's a good experience for me, but it's even a better experience because I always introduce him to Oliver too. So just so you guys know, Oliver is, as they say, he's definitely the wind beneath my wings. So he's in the background. I'd like to thank you to our sponsors for today's show, Front Page Publishing. If you would like to write, publish a book, we do the publishing, the editing. I mean, you name it. When it can come from an original idea to where we actually have writers that work for us, and those writers can turn your idea into a book for you. They're called ghostwriters. Or if you have a book and you like to get it published, we have a publishing house, Front Page Publishing. So just let us know where you are with your book, and we can make that happen. Also, the Idea Club, if you like to start a 501c3, which is a nonprofit, or an LLC, a limited liability corporation, an S Corp or a C Corp, any of those, you can go to the Idea Club and they can help you with that. So I just want to tell you guys all this exciting things going on. As this year is nearing the end, I do want everyone, I know we've been through, I call it traumatizing, but I'm telling you the truth. I would tell you that we're about to embark on a new year. Just go into the year hopeful, not some people going through to the year depressed. Let's go into the year hopeful, because you know what? It's our attitude. Our attitude toward everything makes a huge difference. As many of you know, I try to be positive, but not too long ago, I'm sharing this with you guys because I didn't know I was being negative. Think about that. I thought I was a positive person. That's what I thought. And then I caught myself saying negative stuff, and I was like, wow. I shocked myself, is what it was, that I was saying negative things. It was like, whoa, you need to really check yourself. That was the reality I went through. So it made me realize you may not always know that you're saying negative things, because I didn't know. It just caught me off guard that that's what I was doing. So I would encourage you to just sometimes, I guess, listen as you're talking. But I was complaining. I tell you, people, and it doesn't help anything. This is what I've heard. You get more of whatever you talk about. Think about what that means. You get more of that. So if you're saying positive things, you're going to get more of that. You're saying negative things, you're going to get more of that. You get more of whatever you're talking about. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now, which I'm really excited about, I'm going to introduce to you this gentleman. To be honest with you, I've known him. We met. His name is Michael Baldwin Sr. We met about, I'm going to say it was before COVID. So it must be about 4 or 5 years ago. But it's been a while ago when we met. And I say that because when I met him, he had been incarcerated for over, as I said before, 26 years. And I met him, I believe it was 30 days after he had been released. And I was at the NAACP convention in Baltimore. And that's where we met. And I just remembered, I went up to him and talked to him, as I've shared with the audience before. My husband and I have a son that's incarcerated. So when he was saying his story, I was really fascinated by it. But I was really drawn to his attitude. It was so positive, so uplifting, so encouraging. So let me tell you about Michael Baldwin Sr. He is the CEO of MBS Consultants, which is an LLC. He is the founder and executive director of Legacy Alliance Outreach, which is a 501c3, and he's the CEO of Legacy Alliance Staffing. After serving 26 years of a double life sentence, Michael was released with a specific goal to use his life experiences to bring about healing and understanding to traumatized and marginalized individuals and groups, to bring equality to the community and redefine justice and mend broken relationships. That in itself is a lot to do. Just this, if we just stop right there. To achieve this, he started MBS Consultants to educate and train teachers, law enforcement, civil servants, and paraprofessionals to bridge between those who serve and those in need of services. Today, Michael facilitates, I mean, okay, I'm sorry. Michael is facilitating healing, understanding, connection, and restoring communities across the United States. Now, I'm going to say this: when you met him 5 years ago, that's not what he was doing, but now this is what he's involved in. So, soon thereafter, he founded Legacy Alliance Outreach to serve youth and formerly incarcerated from a heart from humanity by filling the gaps in services provided and services needed. Legacy Alliance Outreach was born as a direct result of the lack of services needed. Legacy Alliance Outreach, sorry, I said it again, was born out of direct result of lack of services Michael received in his youth, as well as when he returned after his period of incarceration. His experience positioned him to uniquely understand the needs of disadvantaged youth. Oops, sorry about that. Of disadvantaged youth and the needs of those who were formerly incarcerated. In addition, he created Legacy Alliance staffing, adding yet another layer of aid for self actualization. Now, as a community mentor, he is doing what he wished could have been done for him. I'm so proud of him. I like to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, though he doesn't use it, he doesn't say he's Dr. Michael. I'm going to call him Dr. Michael, Dr. Michael Baldwin. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hi, Mary. Hi. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. It's been a while. It's been about 4 years or 5 years.
About 5 years. Yeah,
Wow.
it's
I
been
remember
five.
you were in the car on the last interview.
Yes, I was in the car and I was actually working at a law office at the time as a
Mhm,
paralegal. I was fresh out of prison and
mhm.
and that was my dream job. And that was all I knew that I was going to do when I came home. That was the guarantee that I had. She told me that she was going to hire me.
Right.
And so I was working at the law office at that time.
Wow. Well, I know since then you have gone, I'm telling you, leaps and bounds and
Yeah, it's been pretty busy. It's been
wow.
pretty busy. I didn't realize how much our community had not changed.
Right.
I didn't realize how much um, I didn't realize how much God needed me to show up in some different spaces, and He's been in control of the wheel. And wherever He sends me, I'll go. But whatever He's equipped me with, I'm looking to use, and so I've been able to do that.
I do want to share with the audience, if you don't mind, that Michael suffered a loss. His grandson's life was actually taken. It was and he this is um, a few months ago. Was it earlier this year?
Yeah, it was in April.
And they did find the young man that did that, and he is now in custody. But sadly, ladies and gentlemen, this is a 15-year-old. His grandson was 14 years old, and the man that did it's a young man was 15 years old. So they're both children, and So we do like to express our sympathies for that, Michael, because I know
Thank
that's,
you.
yeah, that is traumatizing. I'd be on anybody. On
Yeah,
anybody.
it's been really heavy. I mean, nothing prepared me for losing my grandson, my 14-year-old baby boy. I mean,
Mm,
this kid was had a smile that'll light up a room. He was a goofy kid. He was just a 14-year-old kid. Loved football, had dreamed of being in high school. He couldn't wait to go to high school, and he never got a chance to experience high school.
mm,
Um, yeah, yeah, really sad. And the individual, in our mind, when my daughter told me that he had been killed, and I was making my way out to Tampa to see about them and to see about him, and the coroners wouldn't let her see them. Nobody would really like give her any details, and she
mm.
just was like stuck in this space. He sent him out to school, and he never made it back home. And so they found him at some train tracks, and there was just so many questions. And my experience with the criminal justice system myself gave me an edge to where they couldn't just tell me no. They
Right.
couldn't just say these things to me that
Mhm.
um and they had told her that they didn't think that it was healthy for her to see him in his condition. And so I told the sheriff and I told the coroner that, I don't care how he is, I need to see him.
Mhm.
And I need to see him right now. I need to see him before you wash him, before you clean him. I need to see him.
Mm,
They let me see him. And what the cruelty that had been done to this baby
mm.
shocked me. That how could I mean, I had in my mind the image of what it would look like, who it would look like, at least the age of who it would look like to have done this
Right.
to him. And then 4 months later, 5 months later, to find out that it was a 15-year-old
Mm,
shocked me because it made me want to reach out for this kid, this 15-year-old, and
mhm,
find out who hurt him, to find out, what's going on inside of him. I
mhm.
couldn't even hate this kid. I couldn't be mad at this kid. I had to know that this was a kid whose brain ain't even developed. And, I know that all behavior comes from someplace. And I've been like racking my brain at, I wonder how many countless adults failed this kid. How many times did a system fail this kid? And my dead grandson is the result of that and of the choices that this kid decided to make. And so
Mm,
they finally announced on Wednesday that just passed, that they were arresting him. And so I flew to Florida so that I could be there for the press conference because, there's a lot of things that took place in order for this kid to be found and arrested. And I was blessed to be able to take part in some of that,
mhm,
even from California, because I tapped my ear to the hood
mhm,
in Tampa, and the hood know everything that's happening, and I
mhm,
still got my hood credit, right?
mhm,
I can talk in some other spaces, but I still had my hood cred
mhm.
where I could make sure that individuals knew that whoever killed this baby, they didn't get no stripes from that because they didn't kill no heavy hitter. They didn't kill no rival gang member. They didn't kill somebody who had harmed anybody. They killed somebody that was innocent, and we can't, even as the hood, we can't hold our mouth shut over this, right?
Right.
And so some other people agreed, and so we end up with the name of the individual who done it, but I didn't know that he was 15. And
Wow.
so Wednesday they arrested him,
Mhm.
and then yesterday this little joker escaped. He was able to escape 4 days later, and they apprehended him again last night. But it just like, I mean, I'm like dumbfounded.
Mm, you have to be. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine all and I our my heart goes out to you and your family through all of this. I mean,
Yeah, it's
uh,
been
it's one thing to lose someone due to old age or something like
yeah.
that. He's that was like you said, that was a baby.
That was a baby. And I'm gonna tell you, Mary, if somebody found me shot and killed, I mean, even no matter what decent stuff I'm doing today, somebody from way back could have came back and felt some type of way. And you can almost understand. I mean, you can almost understand. I could almost understand if somebody wanted to harm me like that based on my life and my journey, but not this baby, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, truly was an innocent kid. And so I trust God, and
Mm-hmm.
I trust his wisdom. And so I guess that he want me to do something in this area when it comes to youth violence and incarceration, and how we do incarceration is an
Mm-hmm.
important thing as well, because I stood in this press conference with them, and they were talking about how um nobody gets a pass, that even if you're a juvenile, that they getting ready to give you what you got coming. They're going to treat you as an adult. And there's a certain part of me that understands that. And even though it was my family that was the victim of this, I still find it hard to accept that incarcerating someone for the rest of their life is our only solution to these levels of aggression and violence. And I think we're smarter than that. I think we can do better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree that this kid needs to be held accountable, and that there's a certain period of isolation from community that he needs to experience,
Right.
because we have to make sure that the community is safe from him and
Right.
he's safe from the community as we treat his issues that
Right.
causes this behavior, as we allow his brain to start forming. um, and we need an environment that is safe enough for him to grow in and for the society to be safe from. But I don't believe that as a society that our only remedy
Mm-hmm.
is taking his life for the rest of his life as a solution. I don't believe that this is a bad person
Mm-hmm.
looking at. I believe that this is a hurting person who is
Right.
in need of healing. And we as have an obligation as a society to get him to healing, to get him to because that's a learned behavior. And he is not, unless he's a sociopath. And if he's a sociopath, we have to let some psychologists, really determine that.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe um that we as a society, we have to do more than incarcerate our way out of these societal problems.
Right.
um, that something built this kid. Something built the mind that made him think that that was okay to do. And I am interested in helping to discover what that is and
Mm-hmm.
helping to remedy that. And some of the work that I do today does a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to Legacy Alliance outreach, as well as the consulting agency. Like, that's the work that I've been called to do based on my life and based on the 26 years, 7 months, and 17 days of incarceration that I experienced. And being around my peers that I was incarcerated with taught me some invaluable gems,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
me help our community today. And
And you're
even
doing
when
that for sure. For sure, you are more than doing that. I can't even tell you how proud I am of you, because I remember when I met you. Um, yeah, I can't describe you. You definitely encouraged me. You really
yes,
did, because I remember
well,
I got.
I was so sad for you.
Yeah.
I saw my mother in you, and I saw my mother. And my mother, see, when I was incarcerated, especially in the beginning, my mother was, she won't say it out of her mouth, but she was ashamed
Yeah, you
of
are. I
where I
don't
was
even say
at.
it out of my mouth. People don't even want it. This is what people will say. Oh, my son moved to another state.
Right. Oh yeah, my mother didn't want nobody to know where I was at. She
See?
didn't want nobody to know,
Yep.
what was going on.
Yep.
She didn't want to have to answer those questions. And
Yep.
I put her through that, right? I put her through that. And so when I saw you and I shared my experiences, and you came and shared where your baby was at,
Mhm.
I felt immediate. I wanted you to be informed. I wanted you to know, more about what he was experiencing and what he would hope that you don't experience.
Right.
And he would hope that you don't experience blaming yourself for the choices that he made.
He says
And
that
I wanted you to know
I sound
that.
like Justin.
I wanted you to know that because my mother didn't always know that. and
No.
I didn't always know what she was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to learn what she was experiencing because, see, when I got to prison, I was still hurting myself. And then there wasn't any technology
Right.
in prison. So technology didn't come with me. As technology was advancing in our society, it
Right.
wasn't advancing in our incarcerated setting. So I was becoming more and more of an outsider to my
Mm-hmm.
family
Right.
because as technology was growing, they
Mm-hmm.
was changing the way that they communicate.
Yes.
And I wasn't able to change the way that I communicated. So I lost touch with a lot of people as
Mm-hmm.
a result of my incarceration. And so they didn't get a chance to tell me what they was going through. So I had to kind of like guess and imagine. And so when I met you, I had a full understanding
Yep.
of
You
what
did. From the day
you
we
was
met was a
experiencing,
was connection. Uh,
yes, and what Justin was experiencing and what he was going to need in order to be free again,
mhm.
as well as to be his best self right now. You
Right.
know,
Right.
right now. He ain't got to wait to
Right.
be his best self, right? He
Mhm.
can do that right now. And I definitely wanted to relieve your burden as much as I could
Mm.
of what you was experiencing with your baby
Mm.
being in that captive situation. And I wanted you to know that there was hope there.
Oh,
Today,
yeah,
most people
good.
call me a hope dealer. I'm a hope dealer today, right? There was a time when I was a drug dealer. I'm a hope dealer now,
Yeah.
and that's part of my identity. And so I wanted you to know that there was hope for him in there, and that my mother used to tell me all the time, especially towards the end of my prison journey. She used to say, "Boy, you freer than me." I would tell her how I was the choices that I was making in my life, and she would say, "Man, you're freer than me." I had somebody one day walk up to me on the prison yard, call me a nigger, and spit in my face in
Mm.
the middle of the day room in front of everybody. And for the first time in my life, that his behavior did not jeopardize my manhood.
Mhm.
It didn't jeopardize me as a person. So I didn't choose to do anything to him. I wiped the spit off, and an officer ran up to us and
Mhm.
grabbed both of us and said, "Did you just spit on him?" And he said, "Hell yeah, I spit on that nigga's face." He wanted me to hurt him.
Yep.
And they took us into the police station and they cuffed us both up, and I'm telling the officer, "Man, please, I don't want no trouble, man. I've been doing it." He said, I understand this, Mr. Baldwin, but I need to document this.
Mhm.
And I didn't understand why he wanted to document it. I just wanted it to go away.
Right.
But he ended up documenting this. The man that spit on me and called me a nigger and they put him in the hole. He ended up hanging himself while he was in the hole. And he
Wow.
wrote a letter. And in the letter, he named me and he said that he was depressed and suicidal, but he couldn't bring the courage to kill himself. And he thought that I would kill him. He had calculated me and he thought that I would kill him. And he wanted to apologize to me before he hung himself because
Wow.
I had helped him in his past. And he thought that he would say some things to me that was going to trigger my violence and that I would assault him and kill him.
Oh my goodness.
And that he apologized and hoped that I would forgive him. And he hung himself. To me, that was the enemy trying to
Mm.
take two birds out with one stone.
Yeah.
And he had miscalculated me. He had miscalculated my healing, right? See,
Mhm.
by the time this had happened, I was healed enough to know that my manhood wasn't defined by nobody but me,
That's
and that
right.
I didn't need his respect. I respected me enough for him. So I didn't need him to respect me.
Right.
And I loved me enough for him. So I didn't need him to love me, not even like me. And I called my mother. I remember when this happened, I called my mother because I felt, I didn't know what I felt at the time.
Mhm.
And I called my mother and I told her what happened. And she said, "Well, what'd you do, baby? What did you do?" I said, "Mama, I didn't do nothing." And I started crying. And she said, "Man, I'm so proud of you. I don't know if I could do that." She
Mhm.
said, "I would want to be able to do that, but I don't know if I could do that." And that's when she told me, she said, "Man, you're freer than me
Yeah.
because I would have been held captive by my culture and it would have told me how to respond.
Right.
Instead, you chose how to respond. And I responded based on what my freedom goals were, not based on that moment.
Right.
And and I'm gonna tell you, 7 years later, it would take 7 years. I have been to the parole board twice and been denied parole 2 times.
Wow.
And 7 years later, the parole commissioner named Barlow read that situation, and he asked me, "Mr. Baldwin, did this really happen?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Why didn't you do anything?" This was one of those times where we would have almost felt just you would have felt justified to
Justified.
really harm this man.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the commissioner, I said, "Sir, I'm responsible for me. I could not be responsible for what this young man wanted to do to me, but I could choose how I wanted to respond." And I saw his pain that day. I didn't see none for myself. Whatever he was going through, I was not going to make his issue my issue.
Wow.
And that commissioner told me, because of that, you are no longer a danger to our society. That
Wow.
situation that happened 7 years prior was a key ingredient to the reason why I'm able to sit here and talk to you today. Is
You
that
know that
commissioner?
they knew if you could do that right then and there and not react, not, and you know what? I think you've learned this too. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just listening.
Oh no, I'm glad you did. I mean,
No, I'm
because
listening
the
because what you really showed, the problem was his problem. That's who the problem. The problem was never you.
and
The
I'm gonna tell you something, Mary.
all
I
his.
had to I had to break the spell
Yeah.
in order for me to be able to not respond. See, for us black men especially, and
Mhm.
men in general,
Right.
and black men, we have been trained
Mhm.
almost like you train a dog to respond. You can take a dog that's calm and say sick 'em, and that dog will turn from calm to killer mode
Mhm.
in an instant. I had been trained that same way, and that worked against me in my life. If I would have hurt this man, it would have been justified for them to keep me in prison because it was further proof that I did not have self-control. They wouldn't have cared that he called me a nigga and spit in my
They
face.
wouldn't know.
They
They
would
would.
have told me, you should have found an authority and told somebody,
Yep.
right? But
Yeah.
I ain't been wired that way. I
Right.
had to go against my own culture
Mm.
in order for me to not react that day. See, our respect has been given into the hands of the wrong people, if
Mm.
you ask me. And they don't understand that there's a criminal justice system that's been in design to chastise us for our natural cultural responses. My cultural response to somebody calling me nigger, I was hardwired to
Mm.
whoop on him, and everybody would clap me and pat me on my back, but somebody else would want to incarcerate me and keep me there as proof of my violence. And so in that moment, it was important for me to have been able to hold control of myself, because that's where true freedom is, right? That's
Mhm.
what true freedom is. Because I had a goal that I wanted to be free one day. If I would have done anything to contradict that, then I'm not free. I'm a slave to whatever it is that I'm willing to sacrifice my freedom for. I'm a slave to that. And I have to be willing to accept that knowledge. And so that day, I was in full control of myself. Now,
Wow.
things can change. Like today, I might think, I don't want nobody to think that it's okay to
You don't want them to try it again. Huh?
don't try it again because it might not get the same result, right?
We're gonna say our audience is here and they've been leaving comments, so we're gonna definitely have that. I want to definitely get to
Absolutely.
those comments. We have Trish says hi, Mary. Hi, Trish, and then we have Elaine. She says hey, and
Hey,
this is Wybani. Wybani says hello, Mr. Baldwin. So sorry for the loss of your grandson. Sad,
thank
sad
you.
story. Oh, thank you, Wybani.
Thank you.
Then we have Elaine Wilson. Elaine, we were just in a meeting together. She says, hello, Mary and Michael Baldwin, Sr. My condolences to you and your family. Michael, may God give you all of your comfort, peace, and strength during this very difficult time.
Thank you so much, you all.
Elaine, I can tell you, and Elaine and I have known each other, oh my gosh, years. I don't know, probably over 30 years, I'm sure. And she's a retired educator, retired teacher. He says, "Thank you, Michael, for trying to dig deep and help this 15-year-old and other youth. That takes, you think about what you're saying, though. This is the young man that took your grandson's life. And for you to say you're going to do what you can do to help him, that speaks volumes. Many people would not be trying to do that. But I think you have an understanding that it's almost like you're saying it's not his fault. It's not his fault that he's this way. Somewhere we've missed the boat on how he got this way."
Right. And I'm not saying it's not his fault because he's responsible for what he did with his hands.
Right?
I'm just saying that, for me, there was a time in my life where I didn't know what was motivating my decisions and what I would do with my hands. So
Right.
what he has been hardwired by his trauma to not really understand the power behind his hands and what's motivating him
Right.
behind his hands. What is the fuel? And I want to help him understand the fuel behind what he's choosing to do with his hands. He's responsible for what they do,
Right.
but he is not cognitively like able to really make all of those decisions. And then there's other people who have been a part of his life. And so like I have to be like really conscientious of what I'm saying is that this kid is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And because he don't know what's motivating him, it makes him even more dangerous.
It does. You're
It
right.
makes him even more of a harm to our society. But as a society, we can't just say, I'm going to give him the death penalty. I want to kill this fool, right?
Right.
And that's going to solve the problem. That still ain't solved the problem
No.
because we haven't set the time. We haven't set the example for those who are going to come after him and with him.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't wipe out a whole generation that don't understand what's motivating them. We have to begin to care enough to dig into this boy's heart, into his soul, into his mind, into his life. And I believe that building relationships is a key ingredient to getting people to a safe enough space internally that they can let you in to see what had happened to them. See, nobody knew that I had been molested from the age of 6 years old moving forward till I was 10, 11 years old. Nobody knew that.
No.
They didn't know that part of the reason why when I snorted that heroin for the first time at 14 and everything went quiet in the inside of me, that to me, I had found a cure. I thought that I had found a cure to my fear and insecurity and feeling inadequate and feeling like I was a victim. I had found something that made it quiet.
Right.
But all I did was found another problem that was going to turn me into this violent, incredible Hulk that was going to unleash my pain onto the world. And the only people only saw my behavior. They didn't see it took somebody in prison to come up to me and ask me, man, who hurt you?
Mm.
I had a man walk up to me named Richard who walked up to me one day on a prison yard and asked me who hurt me. When he asked me that question, he broke something on the inside of me that gave me access to a deeper part of me that I had buried away. And he was the first person that I told that I had been sexually abused, that I was ashamed of being poor and black. I had buck teeth and big lips, and everybody teased me because I smelt like pee, because I peed in the bed. And I was peeing in the bed because I had been abused and my body was crying for some help. But my mama, she would whoop me for peeing in the bed. And so it felt like I was getting a whooping for blinking my eyes. And you got to blink your eyes. As much as I tried not to wet the bed, I could not help it. I could not help it. And to get whoopings for that it felt like abuse to me.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I was being violated and I felt justified to hurt people. So when I got into this incarcerated setting, it felt like, oh, y'all just gonna punish me for what? Because I gave them what I felt like they had coming. But nobody had taken accountability for me. And so this kid I don't know him. I've
Mm-hmm.
never had a conversation with him, but I know
You,
behavior.
yep.
I know behavior. I know behavior. I know human behavior. And
Mm,
I know that this kid needs somebody.
mm-hmm.
And who better than somebody who is supposed to reject him? I'm supposed to hate him. I'm supposed to want to harm him. Who better to
Mm.
come and want to hug him than somebody who he didn't harm? Now
Ooh, deep.
I'm not saying that he shouldn't experience incarceration because I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that he gets inside of that environment because I believe that there's some power there for him. I believe that there's some opportunity there for him,
Mhm.
but I don't want to leave him there.
Right.
And I don't want to leave him there by himself to rot, to waste away.
Mhm.
I don't want to leave him there like that. I want him to know that he has an obligation to me and to my family. That he has to now honor Javario, my grandson that he killed.
Mhm.
He has to harness his energy. He has to live a life honoring this baby boy.
Mm.
He has to do that. He has to do that.
That's what Justin was sharing with me. He said there's tribes in Africa where if they
Yes,
take the life of that person, they have that the person that took their life, they have to now absorb be in that role and stay with that family, live with that family, stay with them for a year. Then
yes,
after a year, they bind their hands and feet and they throw them in the river, and the
yes,
family can decide if that person lives or dies.
yes, yes,
And he said not one person has died. They always decide the person's to live.
yeah.
And he was sharing that story with me. And I'm like,
None of us want to see. Yes,
and that's what he said. He said, you don't think you'll have mercy, but that's what you're really showing right now. You're showing mercy for this
we
young man.
can't help it. It
And
is impossible for us to not want to
mhm,
help this young man. I 15 years, I stayed in one cell for 15 years, right? I
yeah,
didn't even move cells, right? So this kid didn't, 15 years of living, that ain't enough time for you um to really get a chance to decide some things.
mhm,
So I really want to take an opportunity to not stop him from being incarcerated, but I definitely want to save him from um, having to die
mhm.
without having the opportunity to change.
Wow. Well, I can tell you what Elaine also said is um, that it takes you being a king in God's army to want to help. Praise God. That's,
Amen.
and Trish says, and thank you, Elaine. And Trish said, wow, what a testimony. You didn't react from him spitting on you. On when for him spitting on you. In other words, for you not to react at all. I think and this is me saying this, I wasn't there. You totally understood that the problem was his, not yours. That you recognize that he was the problem. He wasn't, it may look like he's trying to make you the problem. And I get that from the book, The Four Agreements. When
Yes,
one of the
yes,
agreements is nothing anybody says or does is because of you. It's because
that's
of their
right.
own adventure. Has nothing in their own issues. Has nothing to do with you. That book literally freed me. And I said,
Yes,
you mean nothing I say or do? They're like, no, that's them. You cannot say or do anything to them. They can only do it to themselves. It was like for me an eye opening of this is the reality that we live in, um,
yes,
and that we really make it's like we make our own reality. It's our own. These are our own thoughts. Like that gentleman, like you said, he ended up taking his own life because he wanted you to take his life for him. That's
yes.
what he really wanted you to do. So he thought if he did this to you, you would do what he couldn't do. But you
Yeah.
notice after that, he found the strength to do it.
He that shame and guilt ate him alive. And I wish I would have had a chance to talk to him further, right? I
Yeah.
wish I would have had a chance to talk to him further. I believe that there was more life that he had the opportunity to live if he would have chose to live it. But that's the amazing thing is that I believe I heard from a really wise man that our responsibility is to take a flashlight and flash it towards the light switch. It's each person's obligation to walk towards the light switch and hit the switch for themselves. I'm not responsible for
Hmm.
whether or not they hit the switch.
Right.
My responsibility is to make sure that I can shine a light bright enough
Woo.
towards that switch
Hmm.
and give them the chance to walk towards the switch and hit the light switch. That's my job. That's the task. And by doing so, I save myself from what people call burnout.
Hmm.
See, I'm not attached to people's success or their failure.
Right. 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 It really is.
I'm not attached to their success
That's
or their
their
failure.
choice. That's their choice.
That's
Hmm.
right. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know too. We haven't really talked about this, but you're non you help previously incarcerated. When they come,
Yeah.
do they join your program? How does it work?
Right. So, the nonprofit, we have several components to the nonprofit, and so we go inside of prisons and we teach some innovative rehabilitation classes going inside of the institution.
Mhm.
I even take police as part of one of the trainings that I do for the consulting agency. They partner with the nonprofit to take the police into some of the classes
Mhm.
as rehabilitative and restorative justice practices for the officers as well as for the incarcerated community members. We believe that revisiting those relationships will allow for officers to have a different perspective of individuals that they have had to track down, because most of the time they don't get a chance to know the backstory. And
Right.
then those of us who have been incarcerated, we don't always get a chance to sit down and have a conversation with law enforcement in a way that's non-threatening towards
Mhm.
us, or where
Mhm.
we mano y mano, where we have the same footing, where they
Mhm.
don't have a weapon on them, we don't have a weapon on us. We
Right.
are forced to have a conversation. So we do these innovative classes that helps individuals to grow in empathy while they're incarcerated. Once they're released, and individuals who are formerly incarcerated get a chance to come in and we can do an assessment for them. We do in-person classes, rehabilitation classes. I hire 80% of my staff are formerly incarcerated. I have about 25 staff members right now
Wow.
for the nonprofit, and I pair them up with people with that are um, professionals in their areas of experience. I have retired educators, or one of the retired wardens for one of the prisons that I was in now works for me. One
Wow.
of the
That's big.
Yes, my when I went, my first job was at the law office.
Mhm.
My boss that was at the law office is now my executive assistant. She works for me now, um, and so we pair this experience up so that we can provide a more robust reentry process and segue back into society. We also advocate really heavily for technology inside of prisons. We
Mhm.
believe that this is the 21st century. We cannot have our prisons still operating from 14th century
Right.
practices and expect that individuals will come home and be viable members in society. So we advocate a lot for technology, and then we have a youth component to our the nonprofit. So we do a lot of youth intervention, um, mentorship. We also provide alternatives to incarceration for youth as well as for adults. So some individuals who are part of my program were
Mhm.
actually sentenced to prison, and as an alternative, a judge saw fit to send them to us as opposed to sending them to the incarcerated environment,
Wow.
because we believe, and we've been able to prove, that incarceration is not the only remedy to
Right.
change. We have been able to prove that some people can change without the use of incarceration. It's not for everyone,
Right.
but some people can experience that. We also provide transitional housing. So I house individuals as well. I provide a safe shelter for them, a safe place for them, um, and where they can have continual round the clock rehabilitation opportunity without the use of an incarcerated setting. We do family reunification, we do volunteer opportunities, and then I started a staffing agency
Mhm.
because although we were helping lots of individuals to change, some of them were not able to find employment. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started a staffing agency to provide temporary job opportunities for individuals who are formerly incarcerated, because I began to build a lot of safe relationships with employers. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people in my community were starting to trust and believe in me. And so I asked them, if, as an employer, if you, let me send you somebody qualified, and I'll stay with them. I'll monitor them. I'll mentor them. I'll provide, the oversight for them, and you can hire them as a temporary worker, and they'll work through my staffing agency to where I'll take on the workman's comp liability. And almost unanimously, whenever we send someone, most of our people end up getting hired on full time,
Wow.
because we train them, we mentor them, we monitor them, and we help them to really become part of a dynamic workforce that can fit into a lot of different areas. Um, and then there's another organization called 2C that offers other employment opportunity for individuals, that is spreading around the country. And we're kind of like modeling their model, and they have like a strong ability to help employers hire formerly incarcerated folk, so that they can, safely reintegrate back into society.
No, where are you located? If someone were to want to get in touch with you, Mike, how would they do that?
So they can get in touch with me through, they can go on our website. I have several different websites. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. We have, um, they can find us at www.legacyallianceoutreach.org, and they can also find me at www.mabsenior.com.
MAB.
MAB
Mm-hmm.
senior.com.
Got it. And so they can reach you there. Because did you want to give your number to the audience?
Sure.
Okay.
They can reach me at 209
Mm-hmm.
480
Mm-hmm.
6199.
Here, let me put that in the chat for you. Just a second. I'll get that. Okay. It is. What's your number again? Is
209
uh-huh.
480
Mm-hmm.
6199.
And I'll put that so they can see it. And we have a couple other comments here. And I'm gonna tell you, the audience is, when I tell you they're paying attention, they're paying attention. Because this comment, I'm seeing Elaine's. I finished yours, Elaine. Okay. It's first of all, let me go back. Oh, I have to go back further. I'm thinking I'm stuck. Okay, Elaine said, Trish says, wow, what a testimony. I did read that one. Nanette says, hello, Mary. Hello, Nanette. She says, I am late because I hit the Project 2 show thinking it was live. Oh, I understand. No, it wasn't live. That's okay. And here's Oliver, our executive producer. Oliver says, hello, Michael. Thank you for returning to the show and sharing your experiences. Also, thanks to the repeat audience for their comments. We appreciate you. All right.
Awesome.
Oh, I
Mary, if I could like really emphasize a couple of things about,
okay.
embracing individuals as they come home
Mm,
from incarceration, is it can become a more difficult task if we don't utilize the time of incarceration well. And we have to be willing to use because sitting on the shelf by itself ain't gonna change nobody.
right,
But if we continue to advance the technology
right.
and use like the tablets and those type of things,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that we add to the tablets, and make sure that a tablet is, I believe that every single person that walks into prison should be given access to the tablet.
Yep.
The only thing that should, um, that should probably stop them from being able to use a tablet is just the fact that maybe disciplinary. If you go to the hole, you don't get the tablet for the time that you're in the hole.
Right.
Um, that should be the only thing that should possibly stop an individual from being able to use a tablet. But other than that, that tablet technology, having educational processes on there, having rehabilitative opportunities on there, having access to family, on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I think that those that if we don't touch that, then we can't, as a society, say that we want to rehabilitate anybody.
You're right.
We can't,
You're
because
right.
that would be false if we said that, because we can't rehabilitate anyone without using that time wisely. And so you making sure that we place that type of technology on the inside
Mm-hmm.
allows for the services that we provide on this side of the fence
You're right.
to be effective and efficient, right? Um, it just makes sense for it to be that way, right?
You're right. And you can learn. I know Justin has one, and he does. We do video visits. We can text him. He can. It has changed our lives. I remember when they first came, and
Yes,
he said it was almost like a hush on the whole yard. Of everybody was so. They were now they could touch their family again. They could call them.
absolutely.
It changed everything. It truly changed their lives. They're
That's
a
right.
part of it. During the holidays, he calls and he can do video calls with everybody, even though he can't be there. He is there in spirit. He's not forgotten. He's not just nobody knows he's there. He can still be a part of the community.
Yes.
He said, don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody. He can't physically be there, but he can by phone. Like that
Yeah.
changes everything. So, but
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't want to forget these comments because I so appreciate the audience. And audience, thank you for your comments. And Elaine says, "Wow, hardwired trauma is poignant and so mind provoking. As an educator, I always try to see why my kids who stayed in trouble were in trouble. I know that things must have happened to them." This is. Remember, I said Elaine's also an educator.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Elaine.
Absolutely.
And Trish says, "I'm in tears, Mr. Baldwin. My son is a good kid, but has anger issues. And I was praying last night for God to tell me what to do with him. You said you were asked who hurt you. Wow. I'm going to ask my son that same question and prayerfully that it will break some ground. Thank you to,
Trisha, I appreciate that. And
oh,
I'm going to tell you, as a society, we have been so hardwired to say, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just straighten up? I
yeah,
can't, you just always doing that. But nobody usually asks,
who hurt
who hurt, what's hurting? Who hurt you? Where's your pain at?
you? Yeah.
We automatically associate behavior with badness
Mm-hmm,
and it needs punishing.
mm-hmm.
And that comes from slavery,
Yeah.
right? That comes from slavery, and it comes from, just a whole bunch of other stuff from our past, not just slavery, because everything didn't come from slavery. Some stuff was before slavery. Some stuff is in our DNA that we just got to like counter punch, right?
Right.
And so I think that's a great idea, is to sit him down and love on him just by those questions.
And then she wants to know, are you in Stockton?
I have not put a program in Stockton. I have some partnering friends in Stockton, but I am in Modesto, which is a 25-minute from Stockton ride. And I have some partner organizations in Stockton that are starting to really kick up steam, and we're looking to really like change the way that we're responding as a society. And it starts at home, but it also starts in every corner. We can't just wait for it to happen at home, because some of our homes are filled with solo parents. I don't like to say single parents, because single denotes something. When we say solo parents, it's more appropriate, because some women have been raising kids and they have partners. Their partner might be incarcerated, who don't have access to the kids, like, but
Mm-hmm,
they're solo parenting. They're not single parenting.
mm-hmm,
And so some of those solo parent homes need um, some support, and they need more information.
mm-hmm,
We need more programs that are attractive for young people to go to. We need cats who come from where I come from to be able to tap into some of these young men. But sometimes, even in our school systems, like, I partner with a couple of school systems to provide shadows. And we call them shadows because we provide some adults, some mentors, most of the time with some lived experience, who shadow some young people to classes so that they can make it from one class to the next without all of that veering in between, or
Right.
without some of the sidetracking that can happen, and without the peer pressure that can happen in schools that make it easy for kids to get sucked into some stuff that they never really wanted to get sucked into.
Well, we have this. Trish has a comment too. She said, "I'm trying to reach my kid before incarceration. He's making some wrong choices. Sorry for many comments, but I was blessed by being on. But don't there's no apologies necessary, Trish. I'm just so thankful. This tells you how God is in this. I had no knowledge about anything that you're going through, but I can tell you, and like from the day I met Michael, he's always been about how can I help the community? Where can I help the
Absolutely.
community? And that's what this entire show is definitely about. And it says, okay, Modesto is close to Stockholm. To Stockton. She said, I like that solo parenting too. I like that too. I've never heard that term solo parenting. I like that though. I do. And oh, this she said, may God continue to bless the both of us, Michael. And that's thank you. I think without a doubt, like I said, from day one, it's how can I help the community? That's the one thing I say about Michael. That's if I know one thing about both of us, it's we're community people of what can we do to help. And not that we have all the answers. I'm definitely not trying to say that. Like I said, I'm living this. When you said that, when I was telling you about what parents say, oh, I lost Michael, but that's okay. He'll be back. Oh, there he is. I said
I'm back.
what
Mhm.
parents say when their child is incarcerated. I've heard them say it. One lady told me her son lives in Australia. Now she didn't even know I knew he was incarcerated. And I just looked at her. I never said anything. But what she showed me is this is what people will say because they are so ashamed. They don't want people to know
Right.
that. I just so happens I knew, but I thought that was so interesting. The length
Absolutely.
we will go to any
Absolutely.
lengths and not to let people know this.
And I'm going to tell you, that's where mental illness, that's where the stigmas come from mental illness as well. We
Wow.
have people who will go through any lengths so that you don't know that they're struggling mentally. That's where a lot of drug addiction can come from. People trying to self medicate to try to change the way that their mind is operating. And they're looking for some solutions because they don't want anybody to know that they're struggling. They don't want, because of the stigma of it. If we have to remove the stigma, the reality is that the poorer your community, the more likely you're going to experience some incarceration. And the more likely you're going to experience some drug addiction. The poorer your community, the more likely you're going to have some mental health issues that might show up that are either genetic or nurtured into you through substance abuse. So, as a society, we have an invested interest in reducing the stigma of experiencing people who are incarcerated because our communities are going to experience incarceration unless we and until we continue to like build up our young folks, build up opportunities for them to like see the impact of choices, to really like understand, the criminal justice system and
Mm-hmm.
how soon sometimes the criminal justice system is looking to engage youth, right? They're looking in California, they've done away with the youth authority for a reason, right? But not in every other state. It's not happening that way. And we haven't seen a major uptick in California of youth crime and youth violence, but it's there, it's laying in the surface. But you have a lot of formerly incarcerated folks who are coming home, and we're coming home because we've been empowered by our experience, and
Mm-hmm.
we're looking to be assets in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't always allow us. The reason why I started the nonprofit is because I was working at the law office and I went to a couple of places to volunteer or ask them to hire me, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody would hire me.
Wow.
Nobody would hire me. And
Mm-hmm.
so God put it on my heart, said, man, they won't hire you, then start something and compete with them, right? And I don't want to compete with them to save people. I want to show them that we can partner. You need me at the table. You
Right.
need people like me at the table. We
Wow.
have the ability to refresh how we operate as a society. And even when George Floyd was murdered, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be one of those average black men that's going out there saying, down with the police. No, I walked into the police station. I wanted to train them. And I
Mm,
started training police. I
right.
started training police. And right now, I've been training police all over the country on how to have better relationships in their communities, how to have a more responsive police force, how to deal with their own trauma. Because that man who kneeled on George Floyd's neck was dealing with trauma himself.
That's right.
And they are victims of some of the same crimes that they respond to, but their culture doesn't allow for them to name themselves as victims, right? And so they end up responding from this trauma stance, and it ends up hurting people,
Wow.
because hurt people. And it don't matter if you're wearing a police uniform or you walking with your pants sagging down your butt. If you hurting, you're gonna hurt people, right? That's just the way that's natural laws of nature. There's no way to get around that. And so I've been blessed
I'm going to
to be
stop.
able to.
I'm gonna have to pause you here because the
All
system
right,
makes you off. That's why I'm I'm looking at the time. Sometimes it's exactly 2 o'clock and it'll shut down. And I wanted to do while
all
you're
right. I
I
just
was
really want to appreciate you, Mary.
Oh, Michael, I want to thank you for coming on today because you, as I've told you when I first met you, you have helped me deal with so much. I mean, it literally is a day by day walk, but I want to thank you of keeping me going in many ways. Of your son will be coming out. It's just all it
Yes,
is.
he will.
It's a matter of time. That's what it
Yes,
is.
he will. And
And
I want you to know that I'm willing to assist in any way I can to help him get home. And I have a place. I even have a spot for him if he can come to me. I have a spot that he can be at, and he can parole straight to us and transition back into your life in a way that's healthy for him and for you, as well as for all of the opportunities that's going to lay in front of him.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you again. And I do hope you come back again. I know you're writing a book. So once your book comes out, please come back again and share that
I
with me.
will. I will. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. I want to thank you for coming. And Elaine, you said I will be sharing this podcast. My great nephew is incarcerated and he's teaching some Bible study classes in prison too. God bless you both. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, what can I say? This has not been an easy show because it always brings it back to me of what we're currently dealing with. But at the same time, this is what I have learned. I don't think I've met many African American families that are not dealing with someone that's incarcerated. God bless you. I will see you next Monday, same time, same place. Bye, everybody.